Brothers, my name is Sean Bland, and I want to welcome you to Behind the Shield. Today, I have the honor of interviewing, and I'll have some help from my good brother Raymond Borges to interview one of our former Grand Officers. Now, if you've never heard this individual speak, I promise you, you will be in for a treat. He is a very knowledgeable person about Omega, but he has a personality that is legendary. So, what I want to do right now is bring on our former Grand Bossless, Brother Grand Dorsey Miller, and to help me interview, because I'll probably just be sitting here with my mouth wide open most of the day, is Brother Raymond Borges, who is more affectionately known as Raybo. So, Brother Grand, welcome to Behind the Shield. You are already dressed to perfection like you usually are, just nice and casual for this type of situation. Raybo, I'm gonna turn the beginning over to you, and Brother Grand, don't be surprised if I just jump in and ask a follow-up question, because sometimes some of the knowledge that you drop is so deep, I just have to get a little bit more. So I appreciate you. And Brother Raybo, go ahead and ask your first question.
Okay.
Thank you, Brother Sean. First and foremost, let me say thank you, Sean, for what we're trying to do. As Sean has explained, we call this Behind the Shield. It's an opportunity for our past leadership just to give some insights to the way Omega has moved in the past and hopefully set a pattern for us to move in the future. We know we can't always get it right, but our intent is to keep trying. And I'm just honored and blessed that we've done this with other leadership, and there's more to come. But today we're blessed with someone that I truly consider my mentor, someone that has paved the way for so many Omegas across the world. Our own past grand brother, Dorsey Miller. Brother Miller, welcome.
Thank you, Brother Raybo, Brother Bland.
Brother, if we could start off and just talk about friendship, which is our cornerstone of our fraternity. Uh, I know that you and Tyrone Fatu had a special friendship that I observed in my 45 years in Omega that was so special to me, and it enlightened me. Would you just like to talk about your friendship right now?
Don't mind at all. And thank you for this opportunity to both of you guys. Let me just say that one of the things that drew me to Omega many years ago was was the friendship that I observed between the brothers in my hometown of Ocala, Florida. Ocala was, like I say, a town, not a very large place, but not a very small place. And when I was growing up, the only fraternity that I saw an active fraternity was the men of Omega Psi Phi. Uh, just about everybody who was somebody in Ocala at that time was a member of Omega Psi Phi. In fact, I don't think there was another organized chapter of any of the other fraternities. There were no Kappas or Alphas or Sigmas organized. There was not a chapter. But the chapter in Ocala was Psi Chi chapter. And when I was in 11th grade, they had the district meeting. The 7th district meeting was held in Ocala. And I was asked to be an usher for the talent hunt. And that was a real honor for me because, like I said, all of my heroes in Ocala at that time were members of Omega Psi Phi. And I used to observe these brothers and how they got along with each other. I used to see them preparing to go out on fishing trips. Uh, I used to see them partying together. And back in those days, you know, we hung out on the trees a lot. And there was a club, a nightclub, Club Valley, which was one of the few in the state of Florida of its kind. It was a hell of a club. And people would come from all over Florida to visit Club Valley. And we had some of the greatest stars at that time, James Brown and Otis Redding and all of the big Ray Charles, all of the big guys would come to Club Valley to perform. And so we had people coming from everywhere. And that was a hangout for the adults. But there was a group of us. We called ourselves the Esquires. There were about 22 of us. And naturally, we couldn't go to Club Valley. We weren't old enough, but we could hang around outside. And we could hang around in our cars under the tree, and we could watch these guys. I used to watch these guys interact with one another. And they got along so well. I mean, beautiful friendships. Some of those guys I thought were related, blood relationships, but they were members of Omega. I didn't really understand fraternities at that time, didn't know too much about fraternities. I only knew that they were part of something called Omega Psi Phi. And I could observe them interacting with one another, being real friends and having just such a great time and looking out for one another. And I was very, very impressed. So in my mind, I was saying, if I ever go to college, and when I get to college and have an opportunity, that's the fraternity I would want to be a part of, because I observed guys like Orrin Brock and Ed Fordham and Pete Vereen and Dr. Jones, N.H. Jones, and Mr. Smith and Mr. Nelson, and all of my heroes who I admired, Bernard Gore and the Miller Boys, Pop and Pimp Miller and Bill Miller, who were actually blood brothers, but they were all Omegas as well. And Ted Taylor, we used to call him Doug, and these guys kind of adopted me. They were friends of my mother, but most of these guys were big friends of mine. And Charles Chestnut and all of these guys, man. And I said, I want to be a part of that group. And they looked like to me that they would do anything for each other. And it was a real love, a real bonding between these guys. And I said, that would be an organization I'd want to join if and when I went to college. And when I got to Morehouse, I observed the same thing. In fact, I could see it. In fact, all of the other fraternities had asked me to come to their interest club meeting, except the Omegas. And I was disappointed. And I found out the reason for it. And I didn't know what Bacillus meant at the time. You know, I didn't know any of those kinds of things. But the Bacillus turned out to be a guy who didn't care much for me because he liked my girlfriend. My high school sweetheart attended Spelman. And the girls from Spelman would come to school a week behind the boys at the Morehouse. And so I came to Morehouse a week before my girl, who was the high school queen, and she was my private queen. And she happened to have been on the train with this guy who was the Bacillus of the Qs. I found out later, because I didn't know why he didn't like me. He didn't know anything about me. But on the train, I found out that they had been sitting next to each other coming up. He was a senior. She was a freshman. And I could understand him being attracted to her because she was one of the most beautiful girls around. And he had talked to her, and the first day she got there, I was over at Spelman. And they had a bell over at Spelman that would ring around 5 o'clock. That meant you had to be off campus at 5 o'clock. And so I was over there to see. I was so happy to see her because I'd been going for a week. And when I got over there, I was there with her, and he saw me hug and kiss her. And he just didn't like me from that day on. So I found out later that was one of the reasons I wasn't invited to their little interest thing they had, the little interest group. So I didn't think I was going to be a part of Omega, but I observed them, the Omega Psi chapter brothers there, that semester. And I just saw the same thing with those guys at Psi chapter that I saw at Psi Chi in Ocala. And I said, I don't care what it takes if I have to stay here an extra year even, I'm going to outwait this guy till he's gone. Then I'm going to join Omega. Because what they would do, man, they had uh, it was the relationship that I saw, the brotherhood, the friendship I saw amongst those guys. I didn't see amongst any of the other guys. I didn't see that same kind of relationship. I didn't know anything about cardinal principles. I didn't know anything about the motto of Omega. I didn't know any of that, but I could see it. It wasn't something that somebody told me about. It wasn't something I read about. I saw the real caring for one another. Okay. And when you talk about guys of like attainment, Dr. Mays had, and I didn't know at that time that Dr. Mays, who I worshiped, who was my hero, my main hero, turned out to be an Omega. The dean, the second man in charge, Dean Brazil, turned out to be an Omega. And the line brother of my doctor back home, I mentioned before, Dr. Jones, they were line brothers back in 1922. And so I observed all of these guys, and I said, and then Mr. Hamilton, who was the administrative assistant to Dr. May, all these guys were Qs. And there was a certain connect that they had that I just didn't observe in any of the other professors or members. In fact, most of those guys at that time who were the top administrators at Morehouse were Omegas. And I used to observe them. I used to see them together at certain different locations, like at games, when they had basketball games. It amazed me that these guys would be sitting together, because to me, they were like gods. And you know what I'm talking about. Back in those days,
Sure.
professors were gods.
Yes.
And to see them interacting like that at games together. And I said, I got to become a member of this fraternity because the professors were great with each other. And then the brothers aside, Dr. Mays had a program, an academic program, and he gave an academic award every semester to the fraternity that had the highest academic average. And during the 8 semesters rather, 8 years, the 8 semesters I was there at Morehouse, including my 4 years, my 3 years in the fraternity, Side won that award. And
Wow.
so they were not only friends, and I told you they were men of like attainment, they were men of high scholarship.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that I found out was that the fraternity at that time, this was in 1960s, the early 60s, 61, and then I pledged in 62. During that time, the fraternity required a 2-point. That was a C average. Morehouse required a 2.5, but Psi Chapter required a 2.8.
Wow.
So most of our guys were 3 points and above. And so they always had a lot of guys who wanted to pledge Psi Chapter. But in many instances, the guys didn't have the average. And then back then, we pledged twice a year, in the fall and in the spring. And you had to have that average when you were accepted into the Lamparters Club, the Pledge Club. And you also had to have it at midterm, and you had to have it before you went over. So you had to maintain that average. And so these guys, they studied together. And I found out when I got in the Pledge Club that we had to go to the reading room or to the library every night. So that caused us to be together, to bond together, to become even better friends. And so there was a group of us as freshmen, because you couldn't pledge as freshmen back then, who got together, and we became TICs, those inclined Q. And in my freshman class, there were 300 men who came in with me. By the second semester, we only had about 150 left. over half. And they told us when we came in for freshman orientation that half of us would be gone after the first semester. And I never forget, I just talked with a guy the other day. I said, when I went to one class, this professor said that it was, I believe it was humanities or philosophy. I forgot what it was. And he said that Socrates was A student and Aristotle was a B student. He was a C student. And so we should get the hint from what he just said. That meant that the best we could do would be a C or a D. And he said that look to your left and look to your right. I'll never forget. And he said that next semester, you will be the only one sitting there, perhaps, if you're lucky.
Wow.
Because the guy to your left and the guy to your right will be gone. So I said, damn. And I looked around, and every guy in that class, it appeared to me at that time, was wearing glasses. I was the only one not wearing glasses. And I said, I might as well get up and leave now. So all these damn brilliant people, I'm sitting here the only one without glasses. And over half of us gonna be gone. I know I'll be gone. But anyway, I was fortunate that I was still there. But I said, shit, I said, I got to hurry and get some glasses. I said, because I felt so out of place. But what I found out with the ticks, and it started with the ticks, some of us got together and started studying together. And we said we were going to make sure that we were going to make it. And that was the beginning of some of the closest friendships I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Because at that point, that friendship drove us to care for one another, to take care of one another, and to ensure that each of us, that all of us rather, would be there at the end of the next semester. And
That's
so,
awesome.
pardon?
I said, that's awesome, Brother Grant. You
Right.
know, I've always observed in you your special love for the undergrads.
Oh, yes.
It's a special place in your heart that I've observed at Supreme Council meetings, when we're making plans, when we're putting together rules and regulations, where you always put the undergrads in a high level. And I just want to piggyback on something you said about you guys looked to one another and found one another. You said it was a TICS club where you
Right.
studied together and worked together.
Right.
And that's one of the things I'd like you to talk about, this whole idea of us finding the right individuals, or better yet, the candidates for Omega. Individuals that already have our characteristics: manhood,
That's right.
scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. I'm a strong believer you can't make an Omega. It's already in him. What you got to bring it out and teach him the ways of Omega. Would you talk for a minute on that?
Yeah, one of the things I found about Omega Men is that we, I got to refer back to my days.
Yeah.
Okay, because I talk about lifelong friendships. And I looked at every one of those guys during those days as future uncles for my children. That was the kind of relationship we had. It was like a real bloodline family. And you're right. We sought out good men. There were some guys I asked to consider coming into Omega because we had so many characteristics alike. And that's who we wanted. We wanted men who believed and had a love for scholarship. We wanted men who were leaders. And during my time, and you can check the record, if you could get yearbooks from the day, the 4 years I was there, the president of the student body was either a Kappa or an Omega, because we had a group called we had a political party. We called it what was it? The Dynamic Action Political Party. And then we call it the red and purple regime. Because what we did, you know, we sought out guys who were going to be leaders, who had already showed they could be leaders. You know, we sought out guys who were we wanted the captain of the basketball team. We wanted the captain of the swim team. We wanted those guys, but who also maintained the high academic averages. And we did things to make sure that they maintain those averages. And that's why I'm saying, and it's historical. Every semester, we got the Dr. Mays Scholarship Trophy. Wow. Because we had we held scholarship in high level pride. And that's something we have lost. This fraternity has lost. We're coming back a little bit. But in the old days, man, we wanted to be the top scholarship guys. We wanted to be the top leadership guys. And I'll tell you, as an aside, when I became second vice DR, and I was traveling around the district, and I'd go to a campus, I asked for a profile of the members of the chapter. I wanted to know where we were scholastically. I wanted to know where we were when it came to leadership. I wanted to know where we were about athletics. What about athletics? How many guys we got on the football team? Do we have any who are in leadership? Are they the captain, co-captain of the swim team, or the track team, or the football team? I wanted to know these things because that gave us a great deal of pride. And I remember the words of our founders. They wanted men of high attainment in every sphere of college life. And if you found somebody who was busy and somebody who was an achiever, you knew that throughout the years, that person would be the same, most likely. That was an interruption. Phone, right?
That's okay. That's all right.
But everybody wanted to be your friend. Everybody wanted to be your brother.
That's amazing.
And in order to get in, everyone did. And so the friendship thing, so what you did, you wanted guys like you. You felt a kindredship that we don't have today. We got brothers coming in today that we don't even know.
Brother Graham, when you speak of that, I know that you actually got to interact with the founders for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Did they ever kind of give you any insight of some of the things that they saw dealing with membership, and either it made them feel good or it kind of concerned them? Did you ever have some of those particular conversations?
No, I never did. But let me tell you what I saw.
Okay.
You know, for me, I'd rather see friendship in action than to read about it. I'd rather see it than to hear about it. When you see friendship, it makes a greater impact on you than reading about it. The thing that impressed me most, and I only met two of them and interacted with two, more with Brother Love than any of the others. When I was elected second vice grand boss, 1964 in Denver, I won that election by only one vote. There were 3 or 4 of us as candidates. They didn't have no runoff and do all that stuff. And I remember most vividly, the thing that gave me even greater joy than being elected second vice grand boss was when Brother Love and Brother Cooper came over to me and told me how much they had enjoyed my speech. And then they said to me that they had voted for me. Wow. And I stood there and tears were welling up inside of me, that here are 2 of the founders saying they had voted for me. And then I saw how they were interacting with each other. And at that time, you know, Dr. Cooper had recently married this young thing, this beautiful lady. And Brother Love was jawboning with him a little bit about he might want to get on back up to the room. Because I don't know how many years older than he was than she was, but she was a pretty something. And he said, you might want to get on back up into the room. I did, and, 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 and here these two guys, join with each other in front of me, about something like that. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic. They felt that
Yes.
comfortable.
Yes.
I said, these cats love each other. And I could see
Yes.
it in their faces. So I could
Yes.
see friendship. I wasn't told about friendship. They didn't have to tell me about how you should be getting along and how you could. I saw what real friendship was. And so that's why when Brother Raybo talked about my uh, relationship or concern or interaction with undergrads, having that undergrad experience, really there's a difference because you suffer together and we suffer. You go through a whole lot of stuff together. You have to share, really share with each other. And y'all know how it used to be if you were back
Talk
in
to
those
us about
days.
your friendship with my good friend Tyrone, past grand Tyrone Gilmore. You
What,
two together. And I
what,
know it's some things you can't talk about. I totally understand.
well, that thing I could talk, but look at one of the things. What I want to say to you guys is this: I met Tyrone Gilmore at the 6th District meeting. I believe we were in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1965. And we were both, undergrads. And I came in, I think, a few days before him. So I told him, remember, I was always the senior brother. And he and I hit it off right away. Because back then, the undergrads were just really coming out and declaring themselves as Omega Man too. Because to be honest with you, at that time, an undergrad was considered less than a full-fledged Omega Man. He was an undergrad Omega Man.
Right.
Uh, the leadership at that time looked at us as gophers. In fact, when we had the district meeting in Atlanta in 1965, I think it was the winter. I've forgotten when it was. But anyway, we were listed Psi chapter, Alpha Sigma, and Beta Psi. Alpha Sigma was at uh, Marsh Brown, Beta Psi at Clark. We were listed as co-hosts, but really it was 8 Omega's thing. And I can recall when we had a joint meeting, Dr. C. Clayton Powell was the district marshal. And as they were talking, they were completely leaving us out. They were making all the decisions and plans. So I asked the question. I said, I've been sitting here along with these other brothers, the bosses of those 3 chapters, and myself. And I said, you all haven't asked our opinion on anything. And we haven't discussed anything for concerning the undergrads and undergraduate activities. And I said, what is our role supposed to be? And he said to me, we're supposed to be gophers. And I said, what is a gopher? And he said something about go get whatever we need y'all to go get. Go for this, go for that. And I said, no, it's not going to be that way. And so when I got to the 6th district, Because we had a role to play, and we played not a real major role, but we had a little voice because we began to stand up. And when I met Tyrone over at the 6th District later that year, he was the same ilk as I was. He felt that we should be a part too. And we started talking about the fact that the grad brothers were making all of the decisions for the undergrad brothers. I didn't decide, the undergrads didn't decide I would be the candidate for second vice for my district. The grad brothers did. I remember Moses Norman, Macmillan, and Elridge Macmillan, and his brother, and Henry Port, and all them guys. We were in their suite, and they decided that I was going to be second vice grand boss. But when we got to Detroit in 1965, me and Tyrone and some others, we decided we were going to have an undergraduate caucus, and we would select the person who would follow me. And we did. But Tyrone and I, at that time, we weren't talking about being grand bosses, neither one of us. We were just having a good time, and we hit it off. We just hit it off as good friends. I mean, we got to be good friends, good buddies. Got to be buddies. And I can tell you this story because his wife told it to me and my wife and some others. In 1988, I don't know if Brother Bland remember, but Brother Bland, were you in the frat band?
He may have stepped away.
Okay.
I don't think yeah.
But anyway, in 1988, Tyrone was first vice grand, and Moses was grand. And Moses decided to run for a third term, which was unprecedented.
I remember.
And I ended up having to be his campaign manager because I was the immediate past DR of the 7th District. And it was difficult trying to difficult trying to convince some of the old boys to go for that because tradition was always that you did the 2 terms and that was it.
Right.
And so I was trying to first mediate the situation, even went up to Charlotte with my uncle and then Chico Arenas to meet with Calvin Brown and all them guys up there and all of the former DRs from the 6th District to try to see if we couldn't come to an agreement where Tyrone would go for a third term as well. And they said that it was Tyrone's time. And Tyrone was amenable to doing it because he and I and Adam McKee and some others had met previously for the 2nd District during their district meeting. And so I was torn, because my good friend and Moses and I was really trying to get him to go for another third term. Then I would wait,
Right.
But he was forced. They told him and me, we met all day long, that if he didn't go then, they would not support him in the future. So he had to go. But you know what happened? And Moses eked out a victory. And I remember the morning after that meeting, that was a sad morning for me, a happy morning that we had won 7th District 1, but sad that my man had lost. And I called him early the next morning. And I told him he was in a sad state. And I told him that if he ran again the next conclave, I said, I'm going to do everything I can to get my district to support you. And I'm telling you, you got my support right now. And he just said, thank you, dog. And he was in a sad state. So about a month later, we got together. And we said, man, that's when I decided I was going to run for first vice. And I said, what we do this thing in a quiet way. And we can both get elected. And we worked that thing, right? So
Yeah.
what happened, we planned a lot of trips together and all that and so forth. And one trip we went to Winston-Salem. They were having a big dance. And I took my wife, and he brought his wife. So we were sitting at this big table, and we must have had like 20 people at the table. And Tyrone and I were on one end, and Betty and Jakey were on another end. And after a while, we heard Jakey say, Betty, we just met. I haven't known you more than 3 or 4 hours, but look like I've known you all my life. And I love you, girl. And Betty said, Jakey, I feel the same way about you. And then Jakey said, and since we feel this way about each other, I want to be upfront and honest with you. And I want to tell you something. Whatever you do, don't let Dorsey run around with that no good Tyrone. So Ty and I was sitting on the other end of the table, and I said, wait a minute. I said, she said, he said, and Ty would look around that look he used to get sometime with his lip dropping. What the hell she talking? What's she talking about? And then Betty said, wait a minute, Jake. And I said, oh shit. I said, Ty, wait a minute. Let's see what she got to say. She told me, Jackie, since you told me that, girl, let me tell you something. She said, don't you let Tyrone get too close to that no good Dorsey Miller. We were having a good time. And we said each other, well, what is she what they talking about? And then Jakey said, well, let me tell you this. See if you can top this girl. Now we became the conversation. So we stopped. We wasn't even drinking them or we were listening. And Jakey said, you know, before Tyrone became superintendent, he was principal of Carver Junior High School. And child, he said, the only time he went out during the week was a PTA meeting. So it was a Wednesday night, child, and that PTA was always on a Tuesday. And Tyrone and those had this tri-level house. And they used to spend a lot of time in the den. So you used to enter the house from the back through the den. And I tell you that for a reason. She said, and Tyrone was upstairs in the bedroom. And he said he was getting ready to go to this frat meeting because they were talking about buying this building that the school board owned, and they were going to make that a frat house. So Tyrone's best friend was oh boy, what's his name? He had a nickname. And so Tyrone had worked out with Skin. They called him Skin. So Skin, Tyrone was supposed to be going with Tyrone to the meeting. So Tyrone said, she said that all of a sudden she heard Tyrone on the phone. And he was telling Skin, we don't have so much parking around that building. So you and I need to go together. Say, yeah, I'm coming. I'll be to pick you up. But Skin, look here. How long is this meeting gonna be? He said, 3 hours. He said, oh no, I ain't saying no 3 or 4 hours. No, sir, buddy. Not, I got school tomorrow. Mm-mm. Yeah, now I might do that. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm getting ready. Uh-huh. So Jacob said she was listening. She was down in the den. So he's just talking to Skin. Tyrone said, Skin, let me go now. I'll be there in a few minutes. Jacob said, all of a sudden a knock came on the door. And when she opened the door, it was Skin. Tyrone still up there on the phone talking to Skin. Yes, Skin. Yes, Skin. I'll be there in a minute. Yeah, let me get off this phone, man. I'll be there in a minute. When Skin said, when he came in the door, he said, hey, Jake, said, where's Ty? She said, that line SOB is upstairs on the phone talking to you. So, so, so when Tyrone came bouncing down the stairs, had his suit on, his tie and coat, all that, and everything. So he looked down there on the floor and saw Skin. So he made a U-turn, started taking his clothes off, and went on back upstairs.
Oh,
Boy, that thing tickled me. And Betty was
Oh
laughing.
my goodness.
Betty was laughing, so she was crying. And she said, "Now, can you beat that?" But anyway, we got through the night, and Tyrone said, "Boy, that's man. It's been so many. We've had a lot of those incidents to occur,
Yes.
and but
Yes.
we got to be so close, man. And I tell you, man, he said this to me, and I think I might have mentioned this to you about it. He said, Dorsey, we were riding. We were in Atlanta. We were going from the hotel to the headquarters, and he said, "Hey, dog." He said, "I'll be glad when this. I know you will be too, because I was Grand Bosses then." He said, "I'll be glad when this is over, your term is over, and everything, and you and I can go to meetings and we can sit in the back of the room and watch the other boys do the young boys do their thing." I said, "Yeah, yeah, Ty. I look forward to that day too." And I've said often that the saddest thought about our relationship is that we never got a chance to sit in the back of the room and watch the young boys do their thing. But we had such a great relationship, and we supplemented each other, and that was a friendship that the founders were talking about when they talked about there was never a time that I called on him, he wouldn't respond, and never a time he would call on me that I didn't respond. And we were just like one, man, and it was a beautiful, beautiful relationship. And I often think that I never would have had that kind of friendship relationship, brotherly relationship, had not it been for Omega. And that's what Omega did for me. And, uh, and I'll never, ever, as long as I live, forget the opportunity that I had to have a friendship like that. And that was because of Omega Psi Phi. And so we truly cared about one another and looked out for one another. And that's what you find in Omega. And
Yeah.
that's what we used to have. And to be honest, Brother Raybo, I don't see that friendship in Omega anymore. I don't see us sitting in the lobby uh, telling jokes with all the brothers. I don't see us in the Grand Bosphorus suites and having those kinds of conversations and joking with each other and enjoying each other's company like we used to enjoy. And That's something I feel that we've got to get back to. We've got to work back to friendship, because nothing will keep this fraternity moving forward and progressing like friendship. We can have numbers and money and all of that, but that means nothing compared to friendship. And that's why we used to look at members versus men in a very serious way. It's not about the numbers, it's about the members, the real members, men who are immersed in the true Omega spirit. And we don't seem to care about that much anymore. There are other things more important in the fraternity than true friendship. And when we talk about friendship is essential to the soul, we don't really live that like Cooper and Love, like Gilmore and Miller. We don't live that way anymore. We don't see it. And all of the things that are happening nowadays that are so unbrotherly. And one has to wonder what happened to that friendship that we started out with? What happened to the friendship that existed between Coleman and Love and Cooper? Where's that kind of friendship? And that's the thing that made us the fraternity that everybody really wanted to be a part of. That's why you will see on college campuses, you used to, men of other fraternities wanted to be with the Qs.
Yes.
Because that's what they saw. They saw that friendship. And they envied us because of the friendship. Because we didn't just talk about it, we lived it. We lived it every day in our interactions with each other. We would come to a brother's aid regardless. And we don't have that anymore. And it's sad to me to see it. I've been in this fraternity now, December be 60 years. But like you said, Omega men are not made. Omega men are born. So I've really been an Omega 79 years. Because I was born to be an Omega.
Amen.
And Omega's been good to me, man.
Yeah.
And I'm a living testimony of how good this thing is. And that's why I worked so hard over all these years to have my sons become my brothers. There's nothing like it. It's a joy that I can't explain.
Brother Grant,
Mm-hmm.
I got a quick question because it's just burning to ask this question.
Okay.
You have had so many experiences in Omega. At this point, I know it would be almost impossible to narrow down one of your biggest and greatest experiences, but what would you say is your most crowning experience just being in the fraternity for those 60 years? I mean, you've been bossless, I mean, grand bossless, you've had your children come through, you've met the founders, you've done so much, but what is that one possible thing that you hold on to as a special member?
Okay, let me say this to you, Brother Bland. And you brought this up, and it brought back something that Brother Ed Fordham, who was one of my mentors, said at one of the meetings, a chapter meeting I attended in Ocala a couple of years ago. And to be honest with you, and I swear to God that it never was more impacting on me than when he said it. He was talking to some of the new brothers in Psi Chi, and he said, you know, Dorsey's always going to be our homeboy. And said, we're proud of him. He said, because he's done something in Omega that no other brother has ever done. And I started thinking about all them things I have done. I said, I hope he doesn't know all of them that I've done. And then he said, he's the only brother, because I didn't know what the heck you were going to say, there's ever been a chapter bossless. So he's been a regional representative in the state. So he's been a state representative. He's been a second vice district representative. He's been a first vice district representative. He's been a district representative. He's been a second vice grand bossless. He's been a first vice grand bossless. And he's been a grand bossless. I said, boy, that's something, ain't it? And I said to myself, I said, I never thought about all that, that way. And I said, where did the years go? And I said, that made me feel good. And like you said, I met the founders. I was on a committee with Brother Love. And I think about all the experiences like you just mentioned, Brother Bland. But the question you just asked me is an easy one to answer. The night I pinned my son Dorsey, was the greatest thing that has ever happened to me in Omega, because it meant that I and both of my sons, Eric and Dorsey, were brothers in Omega.
And
Amen.
I've talked to a lot of brothers, and that seems to be that one key factor. No matter what your accomplishments are, the fact that you were there
Yep,
and you did that,
that's right.
it has been probably, because I know for me, out of everything I've ever done, pinning my son and being there when he crossed was it was the highlight of my life in
That's
that
it.
situation.
That's it, man.
So
Dorsey's 8 years younger than Eric. And I used to take them, they've been going to Omega stuff all their lives. And I knew Dorsey was so anxious to join me and Eric. So the night he did, that had to be it. When Eric came in, man, I was excited. I was there in Atlanta. He made it to Psy. But when Dorsey made it, boy, that completed the triangle.
Yeah.
And that was the greatest thing. Because Dorsey asked me when he was 3 years old. Saturday night, I was on my way to frat meeting. And he was crying. And he ran and grabbed me from behind and wouldn't turn me loose. He didn't want me to go out the door because he wanted to go to frat meeting with me. And I told him that he had to be a brother to go to frat meeting. I said, you got to be a brother to go to this meeting, Dorsey. And then as I was at the doorway, he came and he was pulling on me, crying. And he stopped crying for a minute. He said, Daddy, he said, will you ask your brothers to make me a brother?
Wow.
And I looked at him. I said, yeah, Dorsey, I asked him. And got frat meeting that night. I think I was DR. I told the brothers for the good of the order that the young man who wanted to join, but he didn't meet all the qualifications, and could they make him an honorary member? And one of the older brothers, old Grumpy, I used to call him, said, hell no, we don't make no honorary members. Zeta Cat. And then L.D. Gainey, my good friend, he was one of Dorsey's godfathers. He said, wait a minute, brother. I said, who is it, Brother DR? I said, my son Dorsey. They said, oh, shucks. Yeah, we'll vote him in unanimously. When I got home, about 12 o'clock, Dorsey was still awake. And he asked me, did the brothers make him? And I told him, yeah. And he jumped around my neck and was hugging me. So then when he
Wow.
actually became, so that's the greatest experience. That's what I tell the brothers, man. That's why we got to save this thing, man.
Yes.
This thing we call Omega, man, is too great
Amen.
for us to let it go.
Yes.
And some of us now who are in the twilight of our years, we can't leave this earth without ensuring that Omega Psi Phi is here for our children, our grandchildren. We got
Amen.
to make sure, and for our people, because our people need us more now
Yes.
than ever in the history of Black people in this country, because we're losing it. And men like Omega men, real Omega men, got to stand up and make sure that our people's future is secure. We got to do that. We got to make sure that we uplift them like we were uplifted. We can't forget how it used to be. And those of us my age and a little younger, we were here. We were here and we experienced going to the back of the door, sitting in the back of the bus, laughing when we weren't, nobody ever said anything that was really funny. Seeing our people talked to like animals and treated like animals. We lived that when there was really no justice for us, not even a semblance of justice. We were here, we lived it. And then God blessed us with being able to try on clothes in Macy's,
Amen.
to sit down at the lunch counter and have a Coke or a cup of coffee, not having to sit at the back of the bus. He blessed us with that. And yet today, people who are young and experience the fruits of our labors don't seem to understand how we got here. We've got to come back together as an organization of brothers and friends dedicated to manhood and scholarship and uplifting our people. We've got to come back to where we don't let people choose us or select us, that we select them. We've got to come back to those days. Because if we don't, it's over for those who are coming behind us.
I agree.
I'm telling you, we've got to get it together. And Omega has to be. We've got to live friendship is essential to the soul.
Brother
We've got
Grand,
to do that, brothers. We've got to
you're
do
right on target. You
it.
you brought back so many memories for me. I can remember in Atlanta handling the bar while you and Tyrone and others were in the room in the Supreme Council room that we had at the time. It was my job to serve drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. I knew everybody's drinking. You come in as a young brother, you learn that.
That's right.
Uh, I do. I miss that friendship. I miss that comradeship. It's amazing when I see Omegas in a room, other groups and other organizations lean to us for leadership off the top,
They do.
off the top. Uh,
They do.
yeah,
And Brother Ray, bro, you're right. They take our ideas. Look at the credit
yes,
union. You
yes,
know, they take our ideas and make them better for themselves. And then we don't even recognize the fact that they came from us. When we
yes,
moved from Washington, D.C. to Atlanta, that was not an easy road.
yes,
We had to convince brothers that it was good for us and good for the fraternity. Because we had been in Atlanta, been in Washington, D.C. since 1911.
yeah,
And brothers, some of them brothers wanted to do bodily harm to somebody. I don't know
yeah,
who the somebody was,
yeah,
for having the audacity to say, let's move it out of here.
yeah. Many didn't understand what was going on at the headquarters. We were finding bodies behind the headquarters, and
That's, oh man, it was
Brother
terrible.
Epps talked to us about it. Every day he was terrified to go to the office, and
Well,
the ladies.
well, let me tell you what happened one day. You know, we only had 7 parking spaces behind that
Right.
headquarters. And I was blessed, brothers. I was blessed when we had the dedication of that headquarters. I was on the Supreme Council. I was second vice grand boss. That was in 1964. And when we had the dedication of this one, I was there. And I know that when we had the headquarters in Washington, D.C., we had to move. We couldn't have the Supreme Council meeting at that headquarters. That room would only hold about 10 or 15 people. We didn't have enough room. We were in Crime Alley. There were 3 alleys that intersected at our back door. Only 7 cars could be parked back there. And one morning we came to work. We came to the headquarters, and there were 2 bodies leaning against the fence at our backyard. Our back parking lot. 2 bodies dead. We had women working there who were scared to come to that office. It was terrible. And you know that in that headquarters, we only could change from cold to heat, the air conditioning unit, the heating unit, once a year, because it cost us so many $1,000s to transfer from cold to heat every year, which was, I said, damn, when I found that out, I almost fainted. I went there one time as a DR when I was on the Supreme Council, and the brothers were meeting out in California, and I didn't go to that when I was up there for another meeting. I was on a presidential commission, and I took my family to the meeting, and I went by the headquarters to show them the headquarters, and it was too cold for them to get out the car to come in because it was colder inside our building than it was on the outside because they hadn't switched over from cold to heat. Yeah. It was a terrible situation. We had to move, and we got
artifacts in the basement.
Huh?
You remember the artifacts in the basement?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So many things happened there. We had to get out of there.
Yes.
And we were fortunate we had some people who were willing to move with us.
Yes.
But we had to get out. And then they charged us $50,000 before they would give us a release so that we could sell that building. Because that was everybody. They had assessed businesses 50,000. Well, us, it was 50,000 to help pay for that new convention center that they built there in D.C. That was a damn shame. They would not release us so we could sell the building until we paid the $50,000. We were held hostages.
Those are stories that we want the brothers to know, because so many of the young brothers want to know why. Well, you just told why. And I think of somebody else that you know that was dear to you, Brother Elon.
Yeah. Well, what happened when we got ready, what the brothers don't know, and Raybo, you had to have come to that meeting we had down here in September of 1994.
Yeah, I was there.
And that's the meeting when we came and did the worked on the we call it the plan. We called it the plan we had. The strategic plan that we did. But what happened was, we had a problem getting the life membership to give us money to put in the bank, because before the bank would loan us the money, Tyrone started with trying to get the money in place, but he couldn't get it. We had tried to deal with the black banks in Atlanta, Citizen Bank and all the others, but we couldn't do it. And what we needed to have is just some money in the account. Just like when you build in a house, they want to see if you got some unobligated funds. And we went to life membership, said we need you to put $500,000 of our money in that account. And they wouldn't do it. It was our money. And so I said that after that meeting, I remember coming out of that meeting, I said, I'm gonna stop any money from going into life membership. I said, when a brother becomes a life member, he's not a life member of a life membership. He's a life member of Omega Psi Phi. That's our money. and all we were getting, we're taking a little bit off the top for administrative costs. And Jim Elam came up to me, came to my room, and said to me, calm yourself, calm your nerves. How much do you need? I said, we only need 500,000 unencumbered. He said, I'll give it to you on Monday. You'll have a check Monday.
Yeah.
That's why we named the auditorium after him.
Good. I'm glad you
And then,
explained that.
and we did it for 10 years. We did it at 10% interest. So that meant he was going to get interest off of that money every year. And Jim turned around and gave us the interest back every year.
Yeah, I remember. I just want brothers to know the vision that you brothers had to get us to where we are today. I realize a lot of it we have not accomplished,
Right.
but back in the vision put us in the position we are now. And I'm to you before me that did that. And I just
Right.
like brothers to know some of that history that you just talked about, Brother
Yeah.
Graham.
Yeah, it was a lot of things that we could have done. And even they, we were doing the partnership thing to with hotels and with Marriott.
Right.
Really, we wanted to do. But with the thing, the vision we had, we wanted to do benefits in that
Yeah.
strategic plan, man. There's a lot of stuff in there. What we
Right.
wanted to do, we wanted to provide life insurance
Right.
for the brotherhood. So the brothers, the fraternity, would pay that out of the membership fee. Would pay the premium every year, and the brother would sign over. He would make the fraternity a bit one of the benefits because the brothers had to do it. We couldn't do it.
Right. Right.
And then, but what would happen if you had say a $5,000 life membership, not life membership, life policy? The fraternity would get half, and the family would get half.
We
So that
need
was
that
it.
today.
So yeah, so the family would say $2,500 towards your thing, rather than giving brothers a chicken basket. We would
Yeah.
have, or if we got a $10,000 life policy, the family would get five, and the frat would get five. But we would take the money from the membership
Right.
fee. We talked about that. That'd be one of the benefits
Right.
to being a member of Omega. Because brothers can use it now. The average funeral now costs close to $10,000.
Exactly.
And then a lot of brothers don't have that, so we take up a collection and send them $500 or
Yeah.
$400. Man, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
We talked
Yeah.
about, we did have a partnership with Alamo Rental Car.
Right.
We could have had the same thing with Marriott. Wherever you go and whatever you're doing, you could still get discounts because you're a member of Omega Psi Phi. There were a lot of stuff there, man, that we had, and we still could do that.
Yes. Yes.
Because the brothers don't get anything concrete now for the membership, for the $125 they pay.
Right.
We used to get a birthday card, that big card on your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
There are things we don't do, we need to do again.
Yeah.
Because brothers ask me
Yeah.
all the time, say, well, what do we get for our dues? We don't even get a card anymore. We get a sticker. There are things we got to start doing that's beneficial to the brotherhood.
I agree.
When you ask about where we ought to be going, because we belong to this organization, there should be some benefits to it. And then brothers wouldn't mind paying even $150 a year dues, because there'll be some benefit to being a member, concrete, that you can see.
Yep.
Your family, you gone, your family, you get $5,000 check to help
Big help.
That's worth something. That'd be great.
Big help.
Yeah. Give the brothers on their birthday. That was a nice idea what they came up with, to send you a birthday card.
Yeah. I think that was Dr. Epps that started that.
Yeah, he did. It did start under him. I forgot who the grand boss. I think it was Moses.
Yeah.
Then you could go ahead and you could do other things.
Right.
By being a member, you go. You know, I belong to some organization. But you show them your card, you get a discount
Right. Right.
off the hotel, off the car,
All those things.
all
Yep.
kinds of stuff we could do for the brotherhood. And that's back to the brothers. That's what you get by being a member.
That's right. It's got privileges.
Yeah, you got some privilege. You can go to some movies. I got this stuff with AARP.
Right.
I don't have to pay the same thing you have to pay because
Right.
I'm damn near in the graveyard, so they give me some breaks. You know, but that's the thing you can do for the brothers, and
Brother
that's
Grant,
mhm.
I don't want to bring this down because I can listen to you all day. And I know it's so much more that you can tell us. But you've enlightened us on some history that we have to keep passing on. Because my idea is that if we don't know what happened in the past, we can't prepare for the future.
And that's sad, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's one of
Yes,
the
it is.
Rebo. I'm telling you, that's one of the saddest things and one of the biggest failures of my administrations and everyone since my administration and immediately before. We have not had a written history since 1964. And that is a sad commentary in this day and age. I hope we got one coming out. I heard that we might have one at this conclave. I don't know,
Right.
but we don't have a written history.
Yeah.
And then we got brothers like myself who are on the way out, and there's nobody left to tell a story.
Yes.
So we make up a story.
Yeah.
So we will have a fictional history because brothers will come and say this is how it was, and it wasn't. I got brothers telling me all kinds of stuff, that they don't know.
Well, Brother Graham, one of the things that we try to do with this is to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. So
Yes.
the horse today was Brother Graham Dorsey Miller.
And
And
we
we
have a
appreciate.
wealth of knowledge from
Yes,
you
sir.
right now.
Yes, sir. And you did not disappoint today
Not at
because
all.
you told some good stories today that I'm telling you, I don't think very many people know. So,
No, no.
well,
This
well,
was truly behind the shield, Brother Grant.
well,
Definitely behind the shield.
thank you for the opportunity, man. I appreciate you guys and what you all are doing. And we got some outstanding guys. You guys are smarter than us. You guys are much better equipped to really make sure this thing we call Omega continues and prosper and grow. If only you would do it, and we got to let you do it. We got to get out of the way and be here as advisors and share our expertise, what's left, and also to let you know how it was for real. Because brothers come up with a lot of things that are really not a part of Omega.
Yeah.
And we got to use these documents here. We got to let
Yes,
brothers we got to stop keeping this stuff from our brothers
I agree.
and provide this information to them. And my one last comment is you can't expect people to know or to grow if you don't provide them with the tools to do so.
Amen.
And if you don't give it to them, then they'll make it up. And that's what they have done over the years. And they've come with a lot of stuff that's not a part of Omega. And it becomes so because that's what it is according to them.
Right.
And we have too many brothers who are uneducated trying to educate the brothers. So you have the uneducated trying to educate the uneducated. And every year that passes, we're getting worse and worse and farther away from our real history. So I'm just glad you guys are taking the initiative to do something to put a finger in the dike.
Thank you.
And it's gonna benefit a lot of brothers and a lot of people.
Brother Grant, thank you on behalf of Sean, Joe Williams, who couldn't make it. Um, I am truly indebted to you for what you've done for us, the message that you've given us this morning. I know we're hoping in the future to get back with you again, but
Okay.
we didn't want the window to close on us, and we didn't have this opportunity.
Okay.
We thank you so much.
Well, I thank you guys. You're doing a great thing.
Brother
Thank you.
Grant,
Mm-hmm.
I know that you're on your phone and you're trying to get done, but if you could just sit back for just a second so that I can get the people to see you in its complete aspect, I do appreciate it, but I don't think that people realize that this right here is the history, one of the
Yes,
pieces of history of Omega. And I just wanted to highlight and let them see you in full splendor in that situation. Um,
Thank you.
Once again, brothers, this my name again is Sean Bland, Raymond Bourgeois. We call him Raybo. I don't know why we keep saying his last name because nobody knows him as Raymond Bourgeois. Ain't that right, Brother Grant? It's Raybo or
That's right.
nothing else.
And it's easier to say Rainbow.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And our featured guest today was Brother Grant, Dorsey Miller, who I have the pleasure of saying is a friend of mine. Now, I could tell some stories about me and him and being on the computer together and all that good stuff, but it's not quite appropriate for this particular situation because it was a good story, right?
yes,
But when you talk about friendship today, I can tell you that Brother Grant Dorsey Miller is truly a friend. And I remember in Birmingham, Alabama, at the conclave, you asked me to walk with you to your room, and the amount of knowledge and the feeling of friendship that we had when we walked together. And we talked, it wasn't a short walk, it was a long walk.
Yep.
And I truly enjoyed just getting to know you and understand some of the things that you've done in Omega, but more especially just being a good friend. So I just wanted to say that before we got off. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, our guest today was Brother Grant Dorsey Miller. And we ask that you tune in every so often because I'm sure we'll have him on again. And
yes.
Brother Grant, Brother Raybo, thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys. Stay safe and looking
Thank you
forward to
so much.
seeing you soon. Take care now.
Take care.